Hi. Okay, we're back with my doc and Dukov. Today we're talking about combination of physical pain and emotional pain. They actually touch the same receptor sites in our brain. The same areas of our brain get activated when we're in emotional pain and physical pain, and how those two things are actually really interlinked in everything we do in our lives. If I stub my toe, not only is the same region of my brain activated as when I have a heartbreak, but emotional pain goes along with physical pain. So if I stub my toe, maybe I'm going to be angry. That instantaneously happens at the same moment as me being in pain that I've stubbed my toe. I'm now also angry that I've stubbed my toe. So like these get activated, these feelings get triggered the second that we are in any kind of pain. And then the flip side of it is that emotionally, we're in emotional pain, which we cannot detect the location of as easily as we could if we stub our toe. But that also produces physical pain on a much more generalized level, right? So we get a heartbreak. It's painful. They always say a heartbreak should kill you, but it doesn't. You know?
Well, people have heart attacks and die from heartbreak.
You can die from heartbreak, right?
I may have told this story before. I've told it to somebody. I don't know who it was, maybe you, but I had a patient once who came to the office early in the morning because he says, "Doc, I'm not feeling good." I said, "Well, what's wrong?" He goes, "I've had gas all night. I've had chest pain. I just don't feel right." So I said, "What's going on?" He says, "Well, my wife and I broke up, and we decided to get back together. We were going to meet in Las Vegas." So I get the room in Las Vegas. I'm there at the room, waiting for a cell phone call. Did I tell you this story? I don't remember.
I want to hear.
And so she doesn't show up.
Oh no!
So he had bought a brand new Lincoln before he went to give to her, to get back together with her. So he comes back, drives back that night, and the first thing in the morning, he doesn't feel good. He comes to my office. We put the EKG machine on him, and guess what?
What?
Goes flatline. And so we're doing CPR. Here comes the paramedics. They take him away. He didn't survive, and that was all because of heartbreak.
Do you believe that?
Oh, I believe
so there
that.
wasn't like a pre-existing medical condition, or maybe it was just his time?
He could something, man. I had another patient, speaking of, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We manifest our pain emotionally, somatically.
Yeah.
It will transfer.
I had another patient who had a heart attack because of pain and stress. He's a diamond cutter, and he was working on this big diamond down in Los Angeles, and guess what? He cracked it. So it broke, and so he had so much stress.
Guilt.
He had a heart attack that night.
Oh,
and
God.
The next day we do the angiogram on, and guess what? He's wide open. It was just the stress of what happened caused a heart attack. Same with this other guy. His wife, it was so painful and stressed that he had a heart attack. So that's what I'm saying is that, stress can make you have a heart attack.
Absolutely.
Emotional pain can make you have a heart attack.
I believe that to be true. I mean, how can it not be? If anybody's ever been in emotional distress.
Yeah.
If you live with that on a daily basis, you know what that feels like. You know it makes you feel like you're going to die.
Yeah, I have patients that come to the office who have had some kind of breakup, and they are just so miserable. And unfortunately, there's nothing I can do really that quickly makes them feel better. It's always nice to have a strep throat when give you a shot of penicillin, you feel better that night. But for this emotional pain, it's slow to go away. And all these psych medicines that they give to us.
Oh, forget the psych meds.
They take 2 weeks to work. So
and they're not even that. They do worse things to your psyche than you ever started with. Heartbreak is organic. It's an emotional, organic thing called being human. You're trying to fix it with an antipsychotic because maybe you're seeing hallucinations because you haven't slept in 3 weeks because you're missing your lover, or you feel like you want to die because you've been cheated on, and your heart literally is ceasing to beat, and it's dying with every heartbeat. I mean, yeah, go ahead, let's take an antipsychotic. Let's just make it that much worse. I mean, I don't know why these doctors are prescribing it these days. These psychiatrists kind of need to go back to school for some real human interaction.
I find, that the psychiatrists are really prescription writers.
Yeah, they're Pez dispensers these days. Pez, that's what I call them. Pez dispensers.
Pez. You mean
like Pez,
the toy? The
candy.
You
just go in. They see you. The majority of them. There are some that are still.
You said pest like a rat. It was a pest or a bird or.
Pez dispensers. Pez. There are some that, and I just had the pleasure of meeting one in New York, in Manhattan. She has a thriving practice still. There are some that are still the real deal. That they give you the full hour of like real talk.
Well, actually, it's 50 minutes.
A 50-minute hour, right? They give you that full time. They do talk to you. They do want your feelings and emotions, and they give you therapy, and they also then prescribe a mild anxiety or something like that. But a lot of the psychiatrists that I'm hearing about today, the majority,
They're just that big.
you're in and out, and you're a
Right.
number. And it's like, oh, well, okay, let's check your sleep levels. Let's check your, did you eat anything yesterday? 5 out of 7 days of the week. Okay, check. All right, here's your next dose of, some other kind of pill that they're giving. And they're all like these cocktails that are making people so lost in themselves emotionally most of the time because they can't feel anymore.
That's true.
Well, you're just being made a zombie.
And I tell patients when they see a psychiatrist, I said, don't forget, this doctor you're going to see, he's a prescription writer. If you want therapy, you need to see the therapist.
You need to see a therapist.
That's a different person.
But back in the day, they used to be the same thing.
They
Back
used
in
to
the
be.
day, the real deal, the psychiatrist was
couches.
also a therapist.
Here's your couch. Lay down on the couch and we'll talk through it.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Now it's prescriptions.
It's all prescriptions on that side now because they're run by the FDA, they're run by the insurance companies. It's all about money. It's a big machine. So actual therapy, you're lucky if you find a good psychiatrist these days that's also going to give that to you. Majority of the time, you have to go see a marriage and family therapist or a clinical psychologist who doesn't prescribe medication.
But I keep a list of the psychologist and the therapist. Because the patient comes in, like, you're taking this medicine. Well, I take this medicine. Well, I take it for this. Well, how about for therapy? He says, well, I see so-and-so. I write the name down. Because I said, how is that patient?
Because you want to give referrals.
It's right. And they said, they're really good. I said, okay, I'm writing it on my list. I said,
It's so rare to find like somebody that you can refer that you really trust that you know is going to be good. I mean, you don't know because I always say finding a therapist, it's like going on a date. You know almost immediately if you gel, if you feel a rapport with that person. But the majority of time, because it's so hard to find a good therapist for not good, let's just take the words constructs of good and bad out of it, but to find somebody who you feel that rapport with, it's like going on a date and finding that right person. And a lot of people won't go to a new one because the process is so daunting. The process itself, especially if you're in that emotional need.
It is so slow, too, because let's say you need a therapist, so you call one, and guess what? You have an appointment a month later.
Right.
And, it seems like plenty of people need emergencies, and there's no openings. And you don't really have they don't have offices like they used to. Now you leave a message on the machine, the doctor picks up the message and calls you back.
Yeah, you want to find private practice if you can afford it, and then that's a whole other ball of wax because people have to go through their insurance companies.
Why didn't Obamacare cover psychotherapy?
Well, for a lot of, I think the mentality.
I should make that. Why don't insurances cover it?
I think they consider it a luxury.
Yeah, maybe.
Not a necessity. And that is this country's biggest mistake. Because as we've seen over and over again with all these mass shootings, mental health is so important and so underestimated for the importance that it holds in society. And it's not being seen to properly because there's no money in it. So I think that's the first step is not on such a global scale as we're talking now, but for you as an individual, your mental health is so fundamental. It's just as fundamental as your physical health, and we're talking today about how those two things are combined. That's what our topic is today. If you're having emotional pain, don't just think it's in your head. Don't let somebody tell you, oh, depression, what the heck is that? Come on, you can get up. Just look at the sunshine. Just breathe in the fresh air. It's actually clinically diagnosable because your entire brain chemistry changes when you hit a certain level of depression. If you hit a certain low vibration, your whole body is affected by that. Mental health is a real thing. And it's only in the last 150 years that psychology has been recognized as a viable, validated science. Prior to that, it was like people hanging crystals from their doors, what we were looked at like.
And if patients are mentally stable, they get sick less. So
Mind over matter.
You think if the government or the insurance companies would allow people to see therapists, there'd be less people coming to the doctor.
Honey, that would put them out of a job. That would take money away from the FDA.
Companies?
The insurance, no, everything's run by the FDA.
Right.
Let's just go to the head honcho there. I'm going to go straight to the horse's mouth. If insurance companies gave any kind of premium or deductive or whatever, some of them give deductibles, but you have to have really good health insurance to cover mental health. So if they were to give mental health money and people started seeing therapists for free and started to get better in themselves and started to feel whole and centered and learn self-love and learn how to take care of themselves and get off the pills, do you think the FDA would be happy? That's their biggest source of revenue in this country, are the pills that they douse people with, that they make you dependent on.
I wonder how much it costs to, get a new drug tested, by the FDA, and give them results and the fees. What all those? I bet it's huge.
It's expensive. It's a machine. This whole thing is a machine, and guess what? We're the pawns. So the people that may be listening today that have physical pain, it's one thing that you're put on Percocet because you cannot literally get out of bed without that, and it's causing such great disturbance in your whole being, that physical pain that you're in. That's an extreme case. But if there's any other solution for the pain that you're in psychologically and emotionally, besides getting onto an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety or an antipsychotic, I can't believe they started prescribing those in the numbers that they are these days. It's making me sick. Then please try to find some alternative for yourself.
It's not
Come into actual therapy.
Those medicines are not like medicines for acne and etc.
No, they screw with your brain.
That you can't quit those very easily. If you want to quit them, you just say, "Oh, I'm going to quit." That make you sick. So you slowly have to get off the medicine, just the way that you were hooked onto taking them. You slowly have to get unhooked. You have, like when you have to go to psych medicine rehab.
I just read some article about how psych
Maybe we should
meds,
start those.
Antipsychotics.
The Tranquility House.
Well, I actually have a center I'm going to create called the Hole-in-One.
Okay.
2020, guys, I'm creating the Hole-in-One. WHOLE, the Hole-in-One. And that's going to be all these alternatives to these pills that we get on to try to make ourselves better, to come home to your true self, learn who you really are. And I love what you just said, that people that are in therapy are less sick. Is that what you were saying? Because maybe they've learned how to take care of themselves
so that
internally.
They're not depressed or anxious any longer, so they don't get sick anymore. Before, they would say, "Oh, I'm nervous, I may be getting so-and-so." Well, maybe you should wait till you get it and see if you need any medicine.
Right. And we're on such a runaway train with this that we don't even realize that we've been taken. These pills make us more ill. They don't make us better. And I'm not talking about the extreme cases of people that absolutely need to be on a pain medication right now. So please don't consider that as part of this bell curve I'm talking about. I'm talking about like the 98 normative percentage.
Right. There's certainly
not the extremes.
There's a large group of people that are overtreated with medicine, whether it's psych medicine or high blood medicine, whatever it is. There's plenty of people that probably could do without it if they would change their life.
And that's what I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
So I just read something about how there's a certain percentage of antipsychotics that have been prescribed just in 2016 alone for diagnoses like bipolar, which was traditionally lithium. That was supposed to stabilize the brain chemistry because of the polarities in bipolar, and that's what causes the bipolar. No, antipsychotics, they're now being given for like people with ADHD. No. And we used to think that for ADHD, the legalized speed that they called Ritalin was bad enough. Now it's antipsychotics. Do you realize that actually makes you psychotic?
Ritalin is
things like Abilify.
Yeah, Abilify.
They give you psychotic symptoms.
Maybe we should have somebody from the drug company come and tell us about these drugs.
Oh, I don't know if they would, because
Probably not.
they're well paid.
They're very
They're well paid
yeah.
to keep quiet. So let's keep going through this, because I think this is just right on topic here. These, when we talk about being depressed or having anxiety, all these psychological ailments, they have real neural signatures. And of course, as we mentioned, those neural signatures are the same as if we had physical pain that was happening. But because we can't see them, like we can see a tumor, we can see a big bruise on us, we can see if I've broken my arm and I'm in physical pain. We can't see depression, we can't see anxiety. Yet inside us, the same exact mechanisms, the same exact neural passageways are being activated. So it is just as real. And we don't take it seriously enough when we tell our friend, I feel so depressed, or we tell our partner, God, you're really hurting me. Like, it hurts. I feel this pain inside of me because we can't see it. It's not taken seriously.
You get that empty gut feeling. You just don't feel good. You're
you go upside down.
You can't sleep. It's just terrible.
Everything. So people often say, well, I guess it's just in my head. And then we talk ourselves. Everything's in your head. But I think that's the worst thing that happens, is somebody that's really in a lot of emotional pain not being taken seriously because it's not detectable on a physical level. They don't get heard Therefore, they think they're crazy. They think there's something wrong with them beyond feeling like there's something wrong with them. And where does that get people? So there's so much to talk about here, because this is really not only my line of work, is to try to get people to feel heard and to hear themselves, to come home to self-love, not to need it from the external environment, which is its whole other world of, psych talk. But it's more so to get us healthy and grounded in ourselves, because if you feel something, you know yourself better than anybody else on the planet. Even if you barely know yourself, you still know yourself internally better than anybody else can. Don't doubt that how you're feeling is real just because the person you're trying to excruciatingly explain that to cannot hear you.
I would think most of the time they don't hear.
No. And why is that, do you think? I mean, I can answer you psychologically, but what do you think from your perspective?
I think people don't want to hear because they want to move on with the relationship.
Denial.
Right. They say, okay, I'm done. I'm finished. It's
you
over.
mean they don't want to hear how much pain you're in because they're already checked out of the relationship.
They're almost packed up.
Ah.
That's what I think.
So why do people stay? If they've emotionally checked out and they don't want to hear their partner painfully telling them.
I think it's physically and fiscally. Sometimes, I'm in this room, I got to pay my share of the overhead, and they'll stick around because of that.
It's easier to stay.
That's fun, yeah.
Because then you have to, sell everything or take everything apart.
Or just, move out of the apartment and the condo, wherever you're living, and sell it and make, what all the financial things that go along with relationships.
How much do you think that happens, that people actually, that are in the pain we're talking about today emotionally, heartbreak, trying to be heard, how many of those partners do you think are not hearing them because they've already checked out?
Well, I think there's more than less. I think the less people are the ones that may go into therapy, couples therapy, and try to figure it out.
They try to go to bat one last time.
Right.
And that's so true, because the majority of people that we see in our offices, it's their last resort. It's kind of like the last stop before getting off the journey with each other. They come in as kind of like that last swing.
They have so many years into it, they want to say, well, let's not waste it. Let's try to figure out how we can save this.
Unfortunately, by then, it's a lot of the time the resentments that have built over the years because they didn't get in early enough. It's like weeds in the garden that are so intricately intertwined way under the surface. It takes ages to peel through.
Every 2 years we have to buy new license for our car, those stickers for our cars.
Yeah.
Well, they shouldn't let you get those stickers until you do an hour of therapy. And
where's the logic?
Yeah, you say, well, if we can't get along, we can't give you the tickets. I mean, the tickets, the what do you call the stickers for the car?
I think you're onto something with that. I think maybe like every 2 years of a marriage, it should be mandatory that you go in for couples therapy.
Right.
Because you change and you want to be with your partner parallel on your own paths, walking up that mountain, standing on your own 2 feet. You don't all of a sudden you wake up one day and you feel like you're in this codependent relationship.
Right.
That happens without you even realizing it. So I think every 2 years, you're right. People should come in and
something little tune-up or
little tune-up.
Maybe marriage encounter like the Catholics do. Yeah,
what do they do?
They have a thing called marriage encounter, which is a weekend of the priest and therapy and group therapy and lectures.
Oh.
It's called marriage encounter. You may see that on bumper stickers.
I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And these couples retreats,
right.
They're wonderful. We're zeroing in on a topic here that's really great regarding emotional pain, which then translates to physical pain. The majority of our emotional pain comes from our partnerships. It comes from this desire that we have to be seen and heard by the person that we love. And if we don't feel seen and heard by them, it kills us. And ultimately ends up almost killing the relationship unless the two can bring that energy back inside themselves, as opposed to putting their happiness contingent on the other person to make them happy. You have to bring it in and go, how can I make myself happy? Where am I lacking in myself right now? How can I hear myself and validate myself that I don't need it from my partner? And believe me, that's hard work. That's one of the real reasons everybody comes to therapy.
I think that you had to be so strong to get into the relationship that you won't have that same problem. The same problem you just talked about.
Well, it's the validation problem.
I think the people that are really strong and set and are strong already, they don't have that problem.
Well, what do you mean by strong?
I mean that they don't have to be validated.
We all need validation ultimately from ourselves, but it takes a long time to get there to realize that. So, I mean, you could be born a particularly confident but not narcissistic person and not need external validation. But we have this thing in us called the ego that really just destroys our lives.
Dang it.
And we need
I'm not good
external
enough.
validation all the freaking time.
That's what the mirror's for.
I'm so glad you just brought that
Yeah.
up. The mirror is your best friend, guys, because ultimately where we're going with this whole pain topic today is to take care of yourself. And nothing is better than looking in the mirror at yourself and giving yourself that love that that person that is killing you with the pain is not giving you. Give it to yourself. But you have to learn how to do that. I think it comes from learning how to trust yourself. Learning to know that you don't need validation external to you. You can give it to yourself. So you had just touched on that earlier, saying that people that were emotionally happier, more centered, they were healthier physically.
Right.
So let's just chew and marinate on that for a second. We're going to go to break. And if you guys have anything to say, 661-298-KHTS. You're listening to KHTS 1220 AM. We'll be right back. Hi, we're back. Okay, so what were you talking about on the break, Dr. Jenkins, about the people that had come into you with TB? I think that would be a really cool thing for you to tell our audience today. The TB tests.
The TB test?
You gave me a story about people, this person coming in for a TB test, and that the majority of them couldn't sleep.
Oh, I was talking.
You made a link.
No, I was talking about sometimes when I see patients that come in they're going into a drug rehab. And by the way, I think maybe next week we should do drug addiction.
Addiction.
Yeah, addiction.
And not just drug addiction,
Drugs.
sex addiction, any kind of addiction, and what leads us there from pain that we're in as we're trying to escape from it.
But what I was thinking about is that when I talk to all these people that are coming in, checked in, so I have to do a physical on them and plan their medicines and get them off, detoxify them, etc. They all have one thing in common: is none of them can sleep. They said their mind won't shut down. They're up and down. They try to go to sleep, and they would use drugs, alcohol, heroin. They would snort. They would do what they call inhalants. All these things to try to relax.
To try to sleep.
Try to sleep.
But then they're not getting to the root of the problem, which is why am I not sleeping?
That's right.
And that's usually caused by what you were saying.
Well, it's for different people. It's different, but they need to find out what the cause of it is. At least try to find a safe alternative to heroin to go to sleep at night.
Right. Would it I don't know if you'd find this interesting. I found this really interesting. When I was learning in my master's, I once saw this pie chart that said, think about a pie chart, right? Of the entire pie, which is 100%. Do you know that really only 25 to 30% of that pie of our problems are physical? Physiologically based, medically based. 75%, something like that. It's all emotionally driven. It's what's going on under the surface. Inside of us, we are our own worst enemies or best friends.
So our government should give us better insurance for that.
There's a reason they don't.
Yeah.
And they want to control us. And I want to wrap this up real quick because we only have a few minutes left. But one of the big links between the physical pain and the emotional pain that happens in us is that a lot of the time we don't say how we feel. We're afraid to do that. We're afraid to have conflict, or we're afraid to rock the boat, when in fact inside it's the most tempestuous waters of all. And when we suppress those feelings and we try to control them, we try to put them away, they get worse. I call it the monsters under your bed. You've stuffed something into the shadows so long ago, and it's become this monster in your mind that you don't want to look at. And all you have to do one day is just get up off the bed, get down on the floor, get a flashlight, and flash it in that direction. You'll see that scary monster you thought was there, that you're so afraid of dealing with that emotion, is really just a freaking old sandwich or a baseball bat.
Yeah, when I was
it's nothing.
When I was a 5-year-old, I could jump off the bed and almost make it to the door when I was scared.
When you were scared.
Yeah, so I was
Good reflexes.
Yes. Oh, I got to jump over there and get the door open. But
reflexes
we
activated
only have a minute left.
fear.
We only have another minute left, but I think we should really plan on addiction next.
The addiction next week.
And maybe I can bring in a certified drug addiction counselor. We can talk with us.
That would be great. Let's do that.
I'll get somebody.
So just for those listening that were listening today, if you are holding on to pain, the best thing you can do is actually just go to your breath. This is how I wanted to end the show today. There's a technique that is absolutely tried and true for this. So just go to your breath, breathe that out, and we'll talk about that more in another show next time. Just want to thank you guys for listening. Doc, say bye.
Goodbye. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Goodbye. Okay, see you guys next week.